Welcome to the QP Diaries podcast. This podcast is all about inspiring and empowering the next generation of QP professionals and future quality assurance leaders in the UK pharmaceutical industry. On every episode, I'll be speaking to QPs from across the industry, and our listeners will have the opportunity to hear their stories, their expertise, and we are going to be discussing topics to foster growth and learning to help you develop your career as a qualified person. If you're passionate about quality assurance and want to learn from some of the very best QPs and thought leaders from across the industry, then this is a podcast for you. I'm your host, Dal, founder of AssureBio, and I hope you enjoy this episode. We are proud to have partnered with NSF as a sponsor of the QP Diaries podcast. Becoming a qualified person is a significant commitment of time, effort and resources, and the QPs trained by NSF are widely recognised as the very best in the industry, with no other training provider matching their experience or success rate. If you're interested in learning more about NSF's QP training course, you can find the link in the show notes. For now, we hope you enjoy this episode of the QP Diaries podcast. Hi Uche, welcome to the QP Diaries podcast.
Nice one. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. It's taken me a while to get you on board, but we're finally here. So I'm pleased to have this conversation with you today. So we're going to be covering quite a lot, as you can imagine. So we're going to be going into the very start of when you decided to go on that journey as a QP. Then also talk about how you go about fostering quality in terms of culture. Work-life balance, of course, which is equally as important, being the QP as a consultant as well. And then at the very end, we'll get your best advice for anyone who's thinking of going on this journey.
Okay, sounds good.
But to kick us off, can we go to the very, very start, and can you share your experience and then your journey to becoming a QP, please?
Yeah, sure. So for me, the idea of a QP sort of sprung into mind during my sort of a degree, where one of the lecturers sort of mentioned this role and presented it. And at the time, obviously, I had no idea what it was. So I kind of had it in the back of my head that, okay, I could potentially do this, but that's going to be a long way off. And then I went into the industry pretty much after graduating. So I was in manufacturing in one of the big companies. And during that time, about 2 years in, I sort of started dealing with investigations from an analytical perspective in the laboratories. And when we had some big investigations, we normally needed this person called a QP to sign off the bits of the investigation. And that's when obviously came out. And I was like, oh, that's that thing that it talked about. That's clearly one of the things that the QP does. So that sort of intrigued, gave me an interest into doing it. And it was just a question of now, okay, right, how do you actually go around doing it? And I started, as much as I can during the time of research, what do you need? As in the company, they had a role that was available that you can go through, but you had to apply for it to be selected as one of the candidates. So I tried to go through that route. But in the end, I actually transferred to the research and development. And then that's when I was able to basically start doing the courses. I was kind of adamant to go through at the time David Begg Associates. I was actually willing to pay for it myself if need be, as crazy as that sounds now. But then when I found out that there was other ways I could do that, I went through the internal program that was available. And then that's how I started my QP journey. And as part of my development plan, I was now being moved across to different departments within the company to help me to gain that valuable practical experience. Because obviously at the time, I only had the analytical skills. So that led me to going into formulation group, from formulation into investigation medicinal products, and just keep gradually adding from there. So that's how really my journey went into.
Yeah, okay. So it initially came from the inspiration of potential QPs around you, where you were seeing them, as you say, get stuck in some investigations. And of course, it was mentioned to you that this is what these individuals do. However, there was a lot more to it, I'm guessing, in terms of taking that journey to become a QP.
Yes, absolutely. So when I started, going through these departments, and then I came across more QPs in other department, which wasn't my department at the time because I was not in quality. So that allowed me to be closer to them. And I remember going over to that department and sort of saying, what do they actually do, and what does a QP, what other things apart from looking at investigations do they do? So I had great people who were quite willing to help me from a very early stage, show me other things that they do, what it looks like. And then obviously that led to the study guide, studying and try to understand what they're going to ask you, the so-called Viva. It was just a gradual process. I didn't try and rush it, to be honest. I was still doing pretty much my day job, which had nothing to do with being a QB. So I was just, slowly just, catching up, booking little time slots when I can with these individuals who were actually doing it, and try to gain experience that way, just to see what it was like. And do I really want to be a QP or not, was also that question I had to answer for myself.
Yeah, and it was with GSK that you went through their internal program.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. So they at the time when it was set up, the way the program works was, at the time GSK had a number of sites still within the UK, which at the time obviously I didn't appreciate. Was an incredible, invaluable way to learn. So the courses providers, the way they did it was they took us to different sites within the company, and each site predominantly did different things. So we had an API site, we had a tablet capsule manufacturing sites, we had an IMP site, which I was working at, we had other manufacturing sites, and obviously steriles. And what the modules was focused on is not only did you learn the 3 or 4 days of doing the course, the theoreticals, which for me was, kind of more touching base with what I did in my degree anyway. But in terms of the invaluable practical experience and actually seeing, and also giving us the network of people, because what they said to us was, look, obviously you're going to have to sit through the Viva much later on. For some people, it might take you another 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Or these people you can obviously approach and they would know that you were on the program. So what that was doing for me was, when they finished and I was now ready towards the end of my preparation, I can contact different people and ask them if I can come over if needed be, to come to their site to look at the processes or ask more questions. Like I said, I keep saying it again, for me, the people where it was what made this happen was giving me the motivation and encouragement that I could do it.
Yeah, so you were able to lean on the internal network then?
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt, I think, that played a major part, I would say.
Yeah, okay. And then when did you qualify?
So I qualified in 2013, which is incredibly over a decade now, which I still can't believe. I actually was aiming to be one of the youngest as possible to do it when I started. I was delayed by a couple of years. But yeah, I ended up getting my qualification in 2013.
Okay, and your dosage form expertise, what is that?
So when I submitted, it was tablets and capsules. Because that's what was happening at the Harlow site when I submitted for it.
Okay, yeah. And now that portfolio is expanded?
Now there's probably no thing I haven't released. I think if you're being really prescriptive, I'll say the only dosage form I have not released today is the topicals and creams. But in terms of my experience now, being able to work for different companies, that covers pretty much everything, including ATMPs, biopharmaceutical products as well, which have been quite, the innovative. Topicals, creams, and radiopharmaceuticals, to be exact.
Okay. Yeah. So you pretty much covered it all then in that just over 10 years experience as a QP.
Yes. As long as you're not being weird and talking about herbals or medicinal gases, but the usual QP route, I would say most of those I've had some experience in releasing.
Yeah, so it's the traditional medicines, and then the more advanced now ATMPs as well. But okay, all right, excellent. And as you know, the QP Diaries is all about the next generation. So you've got a wealth of experience now, and I'm assuming you mentor different trainees or junior QPs in their careers. How do you go about that? What advice do you give them?
Yeah, so first of all, like I said, as soon as I qualified, probably like 2 years into my first role, that became my thing, because I was obsessed with trying to give back, especially because, like I said already, when I was at GSK, I know exactly how helpful my sponsor was. My sponsor was one of my, really high up in the company, and he was willing to give his time, which I incredibly so appreciative. And I always vowed that I would do exactly the same. So whatever I work for, the first thing I try to do is identify, whoever, think they're ambitious or whoever is on the training program. And basically offer my help without them asking, just saying to them, look, if you need any help with anything, then just give me a shout. And that kind of led, naturally to, sponsoring two people who have gone on to be successful and became QPs. And the way I did that was basically anytime you feel like you're necessary, I'm here at your service. The first time I did it, I was sponsoring them and working. We were going through some sessions online, obviously by phone on the weekends. And we used to book out some slots. And I've continued to do that pretty much. And then because I always made myself available, either through friends or networks who I'd never worked with, I always try to make it clear that, look, this is what I like to do. So please, extend that, and that has led to other people as well. But more importantly, you don't have to be a QP, of course. So I try to help out from a professional point of view. I've done part of the STEM ambassador, which is for the science technology, and as part of that, I also sponsor some college students who are currently 16, 17, about normally in college, who are kind of struggling, trying to decide what they're going to do. So I do that sponsorship through there. But then also always, like I said, at work, I sponsor different people, just, for advice and just how to do it. But if they're interested in QB, of course, I'll give them as many information. So that's how I go about it. I try to do it in my own time so that I'm not now, especially when I became a consultant, so I'm not eating into the consultant time. So I just make that time. If the person is ambitious enough, I make that time for them, and then we just crack on the weekend.
Yeah. So you're there as a sort of support network then when they're going through that journey. Do you think it's a sort of key component of the characteristics of a QP that, as you say, your sponsor gave so much to you, so then now you naturally want to give as much back as possible?
I think so, because at the end of the day, it's all about people. That's what you remember when you do a job. It's about how you work with other people. So for me, like you said, I always had that in mind. Obviously, that's going to lead to other things as well. But as the more I find that I give back anyway, it always comes back to me by other people, because people helped me to get here. Obviously, there's a lot of hard work in trying to be a QP. So you do try your best to remind people of that. They still have to go off and do what they need to do. The support is so important, especially when you have the experience. You should always try to give that experience back to the people that are coming up.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. And then you mentioned it there that you're a consultant now, and so you go into different businesses and offer your services as a QP and a quality professional. And what I hear quite a lot is across the industry is talking about the sort of quality culture and how to foster that, which some companies do it good, some companies don't do it so well. But from your experience, I mean, how do you go about going in as a consultant, as an expert, to foster a quality culture within an organisation?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the time, I'm sure you've seen many presentations about quality culture in your career, certainly mine. And it's one thing saying it and presenting it; it's quite a completely different thing to actually execute it. Because quality, a lot of the time, is about being consistent and being held to a high standard. The good thing about starting my career in GSK is to know what that standard is like, but also be able to be malleable and adaptable to other situations which are not quite there. So in terms of quality culture, I genuinely believe that nobody comes to work to be bad at what they do. So you start from anywhere I go, especially as a consultant. If some way you've had examples where the standards are not quite what it is, then it's up to me and to the rest of the group, especially the senior leadership team, to be held ourselves accountable to what we do and what we say, and also do by your actions. Because, like I said, I can present many presentations right now about quality culture, but it's actually being able to do it. And doing it means having a standard that we need to meet, which at the end of the day is the goal is to protect the patient. So quality standard to me is, how do you approach all your issues, making sure that we are still making, products that are efficacious and safe for our patient. And that's what I try to do in the examples that I've used in my career.
Yeah. And how do you try to embed that accountability then? Because as you say, no one comes to work to do a bad job, but it's not as easy as you say it is. So how do you sort of then get that mindset to these people that you're working with to take that accountability?
Yeah, so for me, I always think, especially because I'm coming in the last two roles as a remediation, we have to say, well, first let's look at what has gone wrong or what we think has gone wrong from what the independent auditor has told you that has gone wrong, and where do you think we could improve. So again, it's a difficult conversation in terms of, for us to be able to move forward, we need to look at ourselves inwardly and say, what has gone wrong? Is it because the structure wasn't quite right? Is it because certain people were neglected? From my experience, I find that a lot of the time the quality culture has been neglected because we were so determined to make those products and get it out the door, but we're not actually thinking about, are we still meeting the absolute right quality, highest standard possible? And a lot of the time, like I said, from remediation action experience, is that we start to let quality slip amongst us without them realizing, because they're not actually coming in to do a bad job, like I've already said. But actually, what's happening is they stop ignoring the amber, what I call the amber lights, that are kind of warning lights that are going off. And there's been way too many of those. And it hasn't gone quite to red, but why wait till it goes to the red flag before you do something about it? A lot of the time, it could be as simple as, the usual excuses. They don't have enough staff, but if you don't have enough staff, it means that you need to slow it down sometimes and try to do the best you can do, but always have quality first. And that's why I feel sometimes it gets neglected. So that's the things that I let what the inspectors tell them, or what the remediation actions tell them. Say, you need to pick up on these signals and try to be far more consistent to show and demonstrate to yourself, not so much the inspector, that you are holding yourself accountable to the highest standard.
Yeah, yeah. Which starts from the very top, of course.
Yes.
And as you said, if it's too commercially led, thinking about the profits, then of course, as you say, slow it down, make sure that your staff are adequately trained so they're making the right decisions.
And that's another thing with like you said, I was always kind of frustrated when you reach the level of sort of senior leadership. Is we also forget that, yes, we want to do commercial success, but actually, if your quality slips, you're not going to get a commercial success anyway. And actually, it's far more costly to fix those errors. And it's almost like you're pushing the boundaries, those amber lights, you're pushing it all the way to the absolute tip where it can't go anymore and is now red. And that's when it's going to be far more costly. Well, at that point, it's almost like they don't realize it until it's too late. Like I said, when you're coming in from a remediation point of view, it's just to shine a light on that and say, these are actually multiple steps where we've had a chance to maybe lean it back. For example, it could be as simple as something went wrong in your investigation, but if you had done a proper investigation and done a proper corrective action, you truly could have prevented it. But to prevent it, you might have to spend a little bit more money than you have to genuinely correct that mistake. But if you kept ignoring it and patching it up, then eventually it's going to come back to haunt you, because at the end of the day, you can't have equipment or whatever the case may be running forever. At some point, you're going to have to fix whatever the actual problem is, rather than patching up the work. And that's what I see from those kind of companies that I've been with recently.
Yeah. And do you think your skills that where you got trained on to become a QP, they sort of naturally kick in these scenarios?
You could argue yes and no. Yes, in terms of yes, because you have the knowledge. No, in terms of actually, a lot of the time with big farmers, you not get involved as much as you would where I am at the moment. So I say it's good. The reason why I chose the path to be a consultant is actually to be able to get to that level where you are, dealing with different types of people, rather than just, what can be very siloed sometimes in big pharmaceuticals. So I think what the underpinning knowledge and experience that you gain from big farmers is that the quality is very, very high. So can you now apply as much of that and hold people accountable? But you must be malleable, because you cannot, think that everything is going to be absolutely fantastic in these much smaller companies. But it's that sort of, it's easy to work in the grey areas that always ends up being the most trickiest. From a QP's point of view, is how can you really do the best job you can while keeping quality in the forefront. So that's what I try to do in this type of environment.
Yeah, Did you find that transition going from big pharma to maybe a medium-sized organisation, that transition quite difficult because you weren't exposed to as many things as you were probably right now?
Yeah, I think initially
As
you're a little bit apprehensive, especially when you first start and you realize actually the support group is not as big as it used to be. But I was always one that wanted the challenge anyway. So you kind of, I liked people, and I feel like you work with far more people in a smaller group than you do in a big pharma. And what that means is that you are seeing the problems more frequently, but it also means that
yeah,
you need to get to work and work more. So what ends up happening is that you're not doing the same old things every day. Literally, weeks can change very quickly. We'll have to all get our hands dirty in different ways. Well, I love it because if you look at the study guide, it's quite extensive, and
yeah,
what a QP, what I view a QP being is at those places where
yeah,
you are doing all these parts of the things that is in those study guide to help you to show that you actually are a QP that looks at all areas of the work rather than just potentially batch release and a few other quality things. And also, he exposed me to senior leadership team, the ability to
yeah,
communicate quite directly, to see where quality outputs and inputs comes from, to go to quality councils, to be able to obviously lead and manage people, to train people.
yeah,
Sometimes whether that's in GMP training, and then also to go out there and represent the company in whatever you're doing, whether that involves auditing. So there's a lot of
yeah.
things that you're doing that you wouldn't necessarily do in a bigger company because, quite frankly, they have other groups doing those very things.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We're taking a moment to share a message from Catherine Kay, who is the Executive Director at our sponsor NSF, where she highlights the benefits of their training programme for trainee QPs.
Our trainers for our courses are experts. They're experts from industry, have had many years' experience and bring a wealth of knowledge to our training courses. We also provide Viva preparation sessions for them every month where they can practice answering questions in a group scenario. NSF have a long-standing partnership with the University of Strathclyde, so not only do our courses meet the requirements of the QP study guide, but they're also taught at a master's level. So that means that people can go on to and acquire a postgraduate certificate, diploma or even master's with the University of Strathclyde. Then you can go to our webpage, so nsf.org, and we have a whole page there set to our qualified person training, so you can read more there.
So I suppose when you leave those big organisations, then yeah, you really understand what it's like to be a QP because you get to use various skills that, as you say, you train for and that are in the study guide. And yeah,
Yes,
it sounds quite challenging, but you get to evolve over time and you're developing each role that you go into.
yes, absolutely. So, like an audit is a perfect example. You would not, any person that worked in a big farm will tell you it'd be very rare for a QP to audit in a big pharma
Yeah,
because they have literally specialist groups auditing. But what that audit does is that if I'm releasing products for all the places I worked for since, I was able to actually most of the time audit the very people that are making us the stuff, whether that's a contract service provider for some of our materials or API providers. So you're able to have that relationship. You can speak to the people. You know their quality system. You know what issues or challenges they might be facing. You're able to see their audits and how they perform. And you just normally you'd be it's not a problem per se, but I just feel like you get more information and you're able to have more hands-on experience of these other types
yeah,
of people that you just wouldn't get with a big pharma because you're pretty much being subdivided. There's a lot of subdivisions of your
mm,
task.
yeah. Okay. And bringing it to today, as you say, you're a consultant, and yeah, it sounds like you work on some busy projects. So how do you maintain the work-life balance? Which I think a lot of people think if you're a consultant, you have this amazing
Mm-hmm.
life where you have that family life, you go to work, you do your job, but then yeah, you get that freedom. Is that reality or not?
Not for me anyway. I don't know if someone else can tell me and comment, but when they know that, they should let me know. I think for the ones that I've represented, you're just basically reacting to the client needs. So I've had a client where you're required to be on site 5 days a week. You're
Mm,
far from home, so the only answer really is you have to stay over. for quite a period of time. And when you're staying over because you're not seeing your family during the week, you're pretty much doing all the stuff focused on the client. So that means if that means 10-hour days, 11-hour days, then you do that because that's what you do because there's nothing else. You're not going home to your family. I've been in a hybrid situation, but it's not far off because again, you're trying to do a client needs. You're working sometimes on the weekend, sometimes preparing for something that was happening on the Monday. You are preparing on a Sunday, which you wouldn't necessarily be doing, or certainly wasn't doing when I wasn't as a consultant. And then things has to be dropped at a moment's notice, whether that's something has happened and you have to go and audit, another company next week, and today is Monday, and you've been called in to do an audit on Tuesday, and that's somewhere completely far. And again, you're trying to react to the client and provide the best service you can. But in terms of work-life balance, I just try to make sure that after all is said and done, you do those hours, you still make sure that my weekends, as much as I can, to be available to enjoy the time with your family as much as you can. So I try to meet the needs of the client first and foremost, and then I try to do the same when I have the time for the weekend. So I try to make my weekends, especially Saturdays and most of the Sundays, free. But predominantly, what I found from my experiences when I'm working for a client, I am pretty much focused on giving those hours to make sure that we can meet their goals.
Yeah. So as you say, first and foremost, if your client's engaging with you, then you have to react to business needs, business requirements, and be away from home sometimes, which of course doesn't mean you get that sort of work-life balance really. But do you manage to switch off though on those days when you do have some downtime?
Yes, like I said, I try to treat. There are some non-negotiable days, which for me, I would say is always a Saturday. So obviously, when I have my little session where I mentor the people I mentioned already, when I'm not doing that, I tend to have a very core disciplined number of hours, which I save to make sure that I do switch off. Obviously, as you know, now I follow sports, so I try to switch off, watch a bit of game, or even go and see a game live, or take some of my kids with me, and just have that time. So I would say most of the Saturdays and the Sunday, and I always try to pick one weekday as well, where I can have that core focus time just on me. But obviously, you can't feel sorry for consultants too much. We chose this role for a reason, so there are going to be times when I do get time, whether I take time off of my own choosing, which I'm able to do. So I could take a significant amount of time if needed, and I'll obviously take my family and go on holidays during that time, which obviously I'm not being paid, but that's fine because I've planned that in advance. So I always try to target having a decent break of a week within every quarter, if I can, just to get away from it all and just focus totally on myself and my family. So there is that as well, to be quite frank.
Yeah, which is important to avoid burnout, really, because I doubt many people can go consistently throughout the year as a consultant anyway. Just working week out, 5 days a week.
Exactly.
It sounds relentless. And taking it back to when you started and looking at your journey, what advice would you give to maybe someone now who's thinking about becoming a trainee QP and has been asked internally to go on one of the courses? What advice would you give them?
Well, first and foremost, I'll be the perfect example because I'll say, one, don't let people discourage you. I was not in quality department, so you might be you don't feel like you're in the right department. Is this for you? Yes, it is for you if you're prepared to work for it. Just understand what a study guide is. Try to find a good people. I believe that there's always good people in any company. So there was always going to be somebody willing to sponsor you. Remember that, understand, hopefully the person has done it before, but if they haven't, do push the sponsor guide to them and explain to them what that involves and how much you might be leaning on them. And then just keep on trying to expand your network. Don't be shy. That's another thing I would say. Do not be shy. I know it's difficult to approach people sometime in a cold way, but it's a skill, right? So you have to try to learn how to, go to the right people. What I found incredible, and I should always share this, is the higher up you are, the actually easier going human beings tend to be, which is quite incredible, really, because you think they have the less time. But if you show them that you're serious about what you want, they will actually make that time for you. It certainly has worked for me. So do not be shy to approach whoever you think is the one of the head of whatever department that you're worried about. If you approach he or her properly, they will actually be willing to help you. So always lean to the help of people. But it's tough. It's tough because you're doing a lot of work that people are not seeing. You're working when people are supposed to be, chilling out. You're putting all the work in. If you start your course, it takes a long journey. Trying to study is different because you're a survivor at the end of the day. You have to get used to speaking in the mirror. You have to get used to hearing your own voice. And you have to get used to being able to answer questions in a scenario situation, not rather than someone ask you a question, you know the answer. So that would be my advice: is don't be put off, don't be discouraged. Go for it, and know that there's going to always lean into your support network.
Yeah, and how else would you advise someone to try and get over that potential sort of lack of confidence and talking in front of people? Would you say going to say like conferences or different networking events or any external courses that you specifically went on?
Yeah. So first of all, okay. So from my experience, I would say you might get a lot of no's. Some people, nobody likes no's, right? Nobody wants to get a no. Everybody wants to get a yes. So I always go with the negotiation, even for my job, for almost anything that you're gonna say no. So I want to learn from the no. Why is it a no for now? Or how can I get it to be a yes? So I was trying to work on that first and foremost on yourself. How do you get, why is other people on the courses and you're not? Is there something that I need to be doing? In terms of the courses, I always recommend going to the free ones first and foremost. Find out if it's for you. They are obviously, I don't know if we could say them, but they are obviously course providers that do have open days or free days. So you can easily just find out when they're being held. Go to it out of your own volition, your own time. It's normally lasts a full day, and they'll probably give you a free lunch. Obviously, they want to enroll you. So have a good time. Speak to people that have already done it. See if it's truly for you. Start there. Don't start paying for courses until you're sure it is for you.
Yeah.
Speak to people that are doing the job. Find out, is this thing my course? Because everybody wants to do it, but you might not be cut out to do it. But the moment that you're convinced it's for you, then you should definitely put in the work and go for it. In terms of courses, obviously I went through an internal course, so I can't really comment on that. So I then went to various ones held by the joint pharmaceutical bodies, whether those were sponsor days when I was closer to getting, when I was getting closer and closer to sitting my vivas. But I don't think it's necessary if you're starting off in the beginning. I'll say go to as many free things that are being offered first and foremost, and do not pay for anything until you're absolutely sure it's the right thing for you.
Yeah, so that's the starting point then, really, is that, I mean, especially nowadays, there's so many online courses. I mean, even on LinkedIn, for example, you can get access to these, and as you say, through different training providers.
Yeah.
So you recommend that's the starting point, and then when someone knows they're fully committed to go down that journey, that's when to take it a bit more seriously.
Yeah, and like I said, as an experience, I've gone to two. I don't want to mention some of those for the case of not being biased, but when I did go to them as a free, I thought it was helpful. I thought it was extremely important to be in an environment where I felt, okay, if I was to go through this course and pay for it, I genuinely believe that they will make me prosper in being a QP.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you don't have to you can go to as many as possible online and decide for you. But the most important thing is that that's the start of your journey. And I think some people can sometimes lose track of that. Eventually, when you get to the finish, wherever the courses that you go, whether you go on 5 or 9, you're going to have to put it all together. You're going to have to need a sponsor. You're going to have to practice and practice and practice. And you have to believe that you are a QP when you're stepping into that ring. Yeah. Because that's what they're judging you on, is on your decision making. Okay, you have the knowledge now. We've looked at your form. We've looked at your experience. We think you're ready to be a QP. Now you're sitting in front of 3 strangers. So convince us within these scenario questions that you're capable of making the decisions where we can trust you to go ahead and be that QP that you clearly studied to be. So I think you always think about the end of journey as well. Like, how do I get there? To get there is confidence. So after the first few questions of Viva, we're going to go into the scenarios. And it's the scenarios where we find out if you're able to convince them if you can be a QP or not. And obviously, even after you're eligible to be a QP, no matter what you think, you still don't know enough. it's actually when you start doing it that you learn even a lot more. So I think he's trying to put it all together, understanding the process, make a decision if it's for you, and then try to get as many experience as you can before that big day.
Yeah. Okay. That leads me nicely on to my final question. As you touched upon that, when you actually become a QP, that's when the journey really starts. So, in your experience, what are some of the sort of the most rewarding and challenging aspects of being a QP?
Yeah, so I would say that what I love about QP most is just being able to talk to different people from different departments. I still really enjoy that. I find it extremely rewarding in terms of the way you're viewed by your peers, the way you're viewed in the company, and the idea, obviously, that I can do different types of things. The greatest things about a QP, especially like I said, in the medium to a small, is that I can do a lot of things in those study guides, which allows me to continue to gain the experience. And also, well, I think by far the most rewarding thing is to be able to work with different types of people. It's kind of one of those jobs where I don't feel like I'm being siloed to one thing. And the problems can appear at different times, whether that's through a complaint, a potential recall, a really hard investigation, responding to different audits, responding to defective medicines, reporting centers, or so there's just different types of skills that's being asked, and different things can happen at different times. And I would say that's what I find challenging, because I really struggled. I gotta be honest. When I came out of uni, I didn't want to do one thing. So, like I said to you already, I started off in the laboratory. I didn't feel like I just want to be there. So, what I wanted to do was to have a career where it's varied. I'm doing different things, and that's what definitely QP gives me, is the ability to mingle with different people, be part of the leadership 1 minute, be part of a investigation team another minute, be auditing, going out there, meeting people, representing your company, different, maybe speaking on behalf of the company, mentoring people, everything, all of that. So as a challenge for me, I'm just glad that he offered me the way I thought it was going to be, what QP is, and I'm now doing it. So that to me is the most rewarding. It's one of the most greatest things I could have ever done with my career. So I'm definitely looking forward to more of that in the future. I'm not retiring anytime soon, but I'm just saying, that's what I find most rewarding.
Yeah, I think it was life changing then. I mean, looking back now.
Oh yeah, well, there's no doubt. In my case, yes, absolutely, it's been without doubt life changing, because I'm able to do things I want to do, sponsor people, mentor people. I have the ability to do a lot of things I would not be able to do. It's life changing in terms of I know I can work in different places in Europe despite Brexit. Trying to do his best to stop that. I can go off, and if I really wanted to, I don't have the ambitions right now, but I can, venture on work in Americas and stuff like this. So I think he has been rewarding and life changing in that aspect, because I feel like there's so much more to being a QP, and the experience it gives you always puts you in positions where you can use it for different things. So
yeah, sounds like there's a lot more that you want to achieve.
There's definitely still a lot more to achieve. So I want to be part of a lot of leadership groups, because I want to continue to put myself out there for the next generation, so that I can give them the pathway. As you and myself know, not shy in saying it. As one of the ethnic minorities, my ambition is to make sure that I get as many people that look like me and speak like me to be in this platform, doing great things alongside me in the next 5-10 years. So that's clearly my biggest motivation. So I try my best. That's the most rewarding part, is that I'm helping people to achieve their goals. And if they see more people like me, they're going to continue to believe. I've had many discussions with different people about this. And I'm certainly trying to empower and get people, because the same way I was inspired by different people, I want to continue to do that. Because the more people who look like me can get to this path and do it, the more rewarding it will be for my community. So that's also another big thing that I really find motivational to keep me going and put a smile on my face.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so valuable. And I think we all need to do more, and we can use this platform as well. This is exactly what it's for, to inspire different people from different backgrounds to go on this journey, because anyone can do it.
Yes.
If they work hard enough and to go down that journey, anyone can do it.
That's right. And I think it's all about opportunities. And if you're willing and you're going to put in the hard work, then you definitely can do it. So I want to one of the reasons one of the few reasons I didn't want to do this with you, Dal, for full disclosure, is that I didn't want to put my face out here. But after having a discussion with yourself, I feel like it was important that I do things I'm not totally, comfortable with, because at the end of the day, the message might reach certain parts of my network that probably might watch this and be inspired to come out from wherever they are, maybe approach me indirectly via yourself or via this platform. And I'll be more than happy to help that set of individuals to push them to basically meet their goals, because like I said, he is life-changing, he's extremely rewarding, and there's more out there. So the more the merrier, I say, to come and join us if you can.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, well, thank you for coming on the show. I mean, it's been inspiring listening to your journey, and to finish on that note is brilliant. And as you say, so if anyone wants to reach out to you, you're more than happy to have those conversations. You already do it anyway.
Yes.
But I can sort of tag your LinkedIn on the podcast, and then people can directly message you from there, if that's okay.
No, absolutely is. That's one of the reasons I agreed to do this, is to, like I said, there's going to be people where you don't know, that you don't realize are watching or listening to what you have to say. So you can't just rely on just your own network. We need someone like yourself. I need this platform. So just to get people to say, look, we're here. I'm here to support you in any way I can to get you to where the best you can be, because I got here through that, being motivated and being inspired by other people.
Brilliant, Uche. Yeah. No, well, that's it for the podcast. So thank you so much for being a guest, and keep doing what you're doing, keep inspiring people. That was a brilliant conversation, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners, when they have a chance to tune into the podcast, they'll really enjoy this.
No, thank you very much. Like I said, I'm out there now. There's no hiding place. So
All right. Yeah. Well, you take care.
Thank you.
And we'll speak soon.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers.
A huge thank you to our special guest and to our listeners for tuning into the QP Diaries podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. As the founder of AssureBio, we created the podcast to support our wider quality assurance community, which aligns to our dedicated offering as a recruitment agency to the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industry across the UK. We have over 10 years of experience exclusively focused on recruiting senior quality assurance leaders and QPs. If you want to learn more about AssureBio's recruitment services, or if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, then please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.